This video is not intended to encourage or glorify any kind of drug use. The sole purpose of these videos is to educate you on the dangers of what these substances can do to you. Please do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video. I repeat, do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video.
Welcome to the world of Tales from the Trip.
This is my experience on GHB that I would like to share to warn others to be extremely careful when using this drug. I have tried GHB before on several occasions and I found it to be okay, but it does tend to make me nauseous. We had some sitting in the fridge that had been there for ages, and I grabbed it at the last minute on the way out the door for a night out with my best friend. I think there was enough there for 2 hits, 30 milliliters, but I am not entirely sure, so I mixed it with some soda and took it with me. We went to several clubs around town and had a couple of glasses of vodka and orange, as well as some shots of mixed top shelf stuff. As it had been a while since I had taken GHB, I had completely forgotten the rule about not drinking alcohol with it. I returned to my car several times during the night and had mouthfuls of my cola/GHB mixture until it was all gone. By this stage, I was starting to feel very dizzy in my head and things were starting to spin. I could not hold my focus on anything as everything was spinning quite badly. My girlfriend did not know that I had taken the GHB as she is anti-drugs, and I thought that I would be able to remain lucid on the stuff without her knowing how smashed I actually was. By now, she had started to notice that something was wrong with me and kept asking me if I was okay, to which I replied that I was fine. I was still standing at this stage, but when she again asked me if I was okay, all I remember is saying that I was, and then watching as my glass slowly fell to the ground, followed closely by me. What happened next was related to me by my girlfriend because I completely blacked out and have no memory of the next 11 hours until I woke up chained to a hospital bed. Apparently, I fell to the floor, then started vomiting blood. My girlfriend screamed for help and the bouncer came and carried me outside. He kept asking her what I had taken and she repeatedly told him only alcohol because of course I had not told her I was on GHB. The bouncer was convinced that I had taken it as he had seen it many times before and told my girlfriend to just let me sleep it off. My girlfriend, sensing that something was very wrong with me, insisted that the bouncer call an ambulance, but he said there was no need as I would be fine if I slept it off. My girlfriend was near hysterical by now and managed to get him to call one. I was still vomiting and unconscious, and my girlfriend was doing everything to keep me sitting in an upright position. I was trying to hold my tongue because I kept throwing my head back and gagging. Occasionally, I would appear to regain consciousness, but would thrash around wildly, banging my head on the ground until passing out again. I have no memory of this, but had a very sore head and lots of bruises the next day. Finally, the ambulance came, and they took one look at me and rushed me straight to the hospital on life support. During the trip in, I stopped breathing several times and had to be resuscitated. When I got to the hospital, I was hooked up to all sorts of machines, had a tube down my throat, in my nose, and a drip in each arm. The doctors told me later that every time they tried to bring me around, I had a seizure and would thrash around so uncontrollably that I eventually had to be restrained to my bed. I was admitted to hospital at approximately 1:30 a.m. and did not regain consciousness until 11 a.m. the next day. The doctors also told me that had it not been for the actions of my girlfriend, I would more than likely have died before the ambulance arrived. My girlfriend's mom is a doctor, so she knew all about putting people in the recovery position, etc. But on this occasion, she knew that if she put me in the recovery position and let me sleep it off as the bouncer had advised, that I would have choked on my vomit. She listened to her instinct rather than the advice given. I have fully recovered from that night and have vowed to never take GHB again because of its unpredictability with getting the dose right. I still use recreational drugs, just not that one. My final comment is, to anyone out there who takes GHB or knows people who do, please do not let them sleep off an overdose. Get medical help quickly and keep them sitting up so as to not choke if they vomit. Do not listen to the advice out there about sleeping it off. It could mean the difference between life and death. Due to my ignorance and lack of information about GHB, I ended up ODing. I was at a friend of mine's house and her brother, an avid drug user, brought us a bottle of it. He had told us that there was enough in there for 3 people. People who have studied up on GHB know that a little goes a long way. Since we were idiots and didn't do our research, we did not know that. We decided that there wasn't enough for 3 of us to do it, so I ended up drinking the whole thing. I started feeling the effects not long after I had taken it. A feeling of being drunk is what I can relate it to. I remember being dragged from one room to another by my friends, unable to walk on my own. The very last thing I remember is lying on a mattress, talking about how much I love Tool's music, while my friends were throwing a soccer ball at me. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital. This is what my friends told me happened during the time I passed out and woke up in the hospital. First off, I stopped talking. My friends thought I was faking it, so they didn't mind me much. One of my friends heard me starting to breathe strangely, sort of like wheezing. She came over to me, and at that point, I stopped breathing altogether. I am very lucky because she knows CPR and administered it to me, which made me start to breathe again. During this time, my other friend called 911 and woke up my friend's parents. The ambulance came and I once again stopped breathing. At one point, my heart stopped as well. I sat straight up when I finally woke up a day later. I tried to scream, but there was a respirator down my throat. My family was there all crying. My brother later told me that on the way to the hospital, my mom looked at him and said, "You know your sister's probably dead." I was lucky that I made it. I had friends there that acted instead of saying, "Oh, don't worry, she'll sleep it off." The intent of me writing this is not to preach. I simply think you should always be educated on what you are about to put into your body. As I write this, I am still reeling from the death of my friend. Last Thursday, my life was changed when my roommate came home, shaking and crying. It took a minute for her to say it, that Brian was dead. Later, we discovered that he took a few doses of GHB and drank alcohol as well. Since his death was only a week ago, we are still unsure of the exact dosage or exactly what happened. We do know, however, that Wednesday night, Brian went to bed and never woke up. I am not anti-GHB, myself being experimental with drugs, but I am writing this to warn about the dangers of mixing it with alcohol. None of us thought that something like this could happen to one of our friends, but now we are all affected by this experience. Not a single one of us will ever be the same, and though we will never forget Brian and are better having known him, we wish he was still with us today. In memory of Brian G., 1982 to 2002. I attend a high school in a small town, and it is completely boring, so to keep it interesting, we take a lot of pills. We always have pills, but one day we didn't, and we asked everyone if they had anything, and one guy informed me that he had some GHB. I didn't know what it was at that point in time, so me and 2 of my friends decided to take some. He put an unknown amount in a bottle and mixed it with Gatorade. We mixed it as well as we could and took turns taking swallows. After only 4 or 5 minutes, I could feel the effects. I began to almost float, and it felt really pleasant for about 10 minutes. But after that, I started to feel extremely drunk, like I had drank a case of beer, and I couldn't walk at all. I just sat at my desk and was waiting for the effects to disappear, but it lasted longer than I expected. I don't remember much after this stage of the trip, except for me being consumed by the fear of the bell ringing because that sound meant I had to get up and walk to another room for class. Although I didn't recall much, my friends did. Luckily, we were not having class that day because of a blood drive at our school, but there was a teacher in the room. My friends said I began to sweat profusely and shake, so they helped me to the back of the room so the teacher couldn't hear or see me as well. They said they sat there and watched me, and all of a sudden, I began to drool and convulse mildly. The next thing I remember is the bell ringing. It was the most horrid sound I have ever encountered. It took what seemed like an eternity to get out of the room. Everyone in the hall thought I was on some crazy dope because the first thing I did was run into a locker and fall down. I eventually made my way outside the school and threw up. After this, I just said fuck it and attempted to make my way home. I made it to about 1 block before I was forced to stop on the shoulder of the road and vomit for what seemed like an hour. I threw up so hard that I realized the next day I had busted several blood vessels in my eyes from all the strain. Following this, I drove directly home at about 20 miles an hour. Since this experience, I have used GHB several times, but I have learned to know what dose I am taking. I'm a 30-year-old French-Canadian man who had his share of experiences with drugs, bad drugs, heroin, speed, cocaine, PCP, alcohol, and not too bad ones, marijuana, mushrooms, salvia, LSD. I used to fit GHB in the latter category, but I ain't sure about that anymore. I'm writing this to those interested in experimenting with the juice and are hardheads who underestimate the danger of the juice with time. See, I've been using GH juice on and off, but rather on, for the past 3 years, so I know the game a little bit. The day before I did the juice, I slept only 2 hours, and after had a stressful day taking care of old folks at work. But anyways, that evening, I did a big cap of GHB after dinner to relax cause my head was feeling like a pressure cooker. I just can't function normally without my sleep. I feel like I am living an LSD come down. My friend calls me about 40 minutes after dinner to go chill at the basketball court and play a little 21. I was starting to feel better anyways, so I thought it would be a good idea. Forgetting I had taken the juice right after dinner, I thought it had all entered my brain, but that's the problem. Because of the food, it wasn't all metabolized yet. So thinking it wasn't enough, I did a half a cap more and went to the court. Let me specify that this is some strong salty juice. I arrived at the court with no more inhibitions, eager to shoot some incredible 3-pointers. Yes, I am white and was having a lot of fun, for a while. After about 40 minutes at the court, I was starting to be unable to focus on the ring or the ball, and I was losing my sense of balance too. I was joking about it in the beginning, but after a while, I knew I was getting way too fucked up. I sat leaning on a fence for a while, saying to my friend how fucked up I was getting. I was starting to hear zapping sounds in my brain every 30 seconds, and every time I heard those, a muscle would twitch or lose its power, so I was looking like a nodding dumbass. I was thinking, ouch, is that some brain cells being zapped? This is when I blacked out. The next 2 hours, I don't remember anything except what my friend told me. I was lying down, not moving, and once in a while, I was screaming or mumbling nonsensical words. The worst part is, when I started to shake, I would bang my head hard and fast on the concrete. My friend was cool, and after the 4th hit on the concrete, he managed to stop me. Thanks, man, I think I would have ripped my head off. I woke up after 2 hours of blackout. It was dark outside, and I heard people who were not there 2 hours ago, 2 minutes in my perception. So I was like, what the hell happened? Who are these people? If it wouldn't have been for the headbanging, I would have woke up refreshed because I managed to get up and shoot a couple more before going home. Well, let's wrap it up. It's been 3 days since that stupid episode, and I still got pain in my forehead. It's bruised, and the blood is drying up.